Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the latest episode of the Hard Compound Live. For those of you who don't know, my name is Rich and I run and operate the Hard Compound. We're a one-stop shop for all things motorsport, whether it be F1, IndyCar, NASCAR, endurance racing, sports cars, touring cars, bikes, all that kind of good stuff. We try and cover it all as best we can, and we do that in the form of race reviews, race previews, just some articles that we write ourselves, throwbacks, breaking news, all that kind of thing. And we do that on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And we also do live interviews, as you might have noticed. These interviews are live on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel. Search for the Hard Compound on any of those, and you'll find them all. If you're on Facebook, they're in the video section. And we've had some fantastic guests in the past. And we have another fantastic guest tonight. Some of the guests that we've had, they've ranged from the BTCC to Formula One to sports cars to IndyCar, spanning a number of eras, I suppose. From the British Touring Car Championship, we've spoken to past champions such as Matt Neal and Rob Gravitt, John Cleland, Steve Soper. We've spoken to Anthony Reid, Gabriele Tarquini, Rickard Rydell, Andy Prio, World Touring Car Champion. We've spoken to Tom Coronel from the World Touring Cars. From the current crop, we've spoken to the likes of Tom Chilton, Jake Hill, Ollie Jackson, Rick Parfitt, Chris Smiley, Jade Edwards, many people. Spoken to Michael Crease. We've also spoken to some team bosses. One of them was Dick Bennett, the boss of West Surrey Racing, who is credited with launching the careers of Ayrton Senna, Mika Hakkinen, Rubens Barrichello, Eddie Irvine, and the like. Mentioned we've spoken to some F1 and IndyCar drivers in the past. One was Terry Fullerton, Ayrton Senna's great rival from when he was in karting. Real pleasure to speak with Terry. From IndyCar, we've spoken with Ari Leyendijk, Danny Sullivan, Mr. Willie T. Ribbs, Brian Herter, Alex Palou, Will Power, Alonso Jr., Lynn St. James, and just last week we spoke with Dalton Kellett. From the Formula One sports car world, we've spoken to Mr. Derek Warwick, to Stefan Johansson, David Brabham, Perry McCarthy, Mark Blundell, Karen Chandhok, Alex Cathy, Mika Salo, many drivers of that era. And we've had the honour and the privilege of speaking with Jackie Ickx and with Mario Andretti and more. So if any of those sound good, do check them out on our Facebook page in the video section or on our YouTube, but don't do it just yet, because we have got another terrific guest. As I said, he's raced in F1 in the past. He's competed in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. He's a GT champion, raced in the DTM, many different series. And we're going to bring him in right now. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Karl Wendlinger. And
good evening.
Here we are. How are you, Karl?
Very good. Thank you. Very good.
Good. Very pleased to hear it. And thank you very much for coming to join us this evening. I know you've had a very busy weekend over here at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and you only got back yesterday or today?
Oh, this morning, 1:30. Finally, I was at home because the plane left quite late from Heathrow with a little delay, and then I always have to fly to Munich and have a bit more than an hour drive. But at 1:30 this morning, I was in bed then finally.
So not too late. Not too late getting home. Then not too bad. But I hope you've had some sleep, because I appreciate you're obviously an hour ahead of us in the UK. You're over there in Austria. But yeah, how was Goodwood? Was it nice few days for you?
Yes, very nice. Like always, I think at the Festival of Speed, it was now the 5th time I've been. And it's always, how can I say, impressive, the amount of crowd you see there, the amount of interesting people in cars, in motorsport, in racing. And it was really a great audience. And yes, I enjoyed it a lot, driving different Mercedes cars, classic cars, interesting cars, like, for example, the SLR from Hans Hermer from 1955, what he raced at the Mille Miglia. So the original car, yeah, and some other cars. So yeah, busy from running from one car to the next, busy being in on time for the next start of the batch, but was nice again. Huh?
No, great. No, very good to hear. Did you see Max Chilton going up the hill in the new all electric? Was it McMurtry, whatever it was? That was That's an
Yeah,
amazing. That's amazing.
impressive. It looked already fast, and I believe if something looks fast from outside, it must be really fast inside.
Yes, you can't have a car that looks fast and then goes slowly.
Mhm.
No, great, very good to hear. Well, as I said, thank you very much for coming and having a chat. Obviously, we've got quite a career you've had that we're going to try and run through as best we can, pick up all the big bits. But before we do, just want to say hello to the folks in the comment section that are tuning in: Chris Josie, Colin Hart, Tracy Hickley, and others. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you've got any questions, any comments, do put them in, and we will come to them as and when we can. So yes, let's get started. I suppose what I'd like to do, if I may, is start right at the very start. Obviously, you're from the mountains of Austria, and I've had a look at your hometown, your area. It doesn't look like the kind of place where motorsport is number one. How did you get into motorsport?
Yeah, maybe motorsport is not number one in our area, but still there were always drivers around.
Mm.
And for example, how did I come in? I grew up in a car workshop, a car dealership, founded from my grandfather, I think, in the 1950s. And then my father was involved there as well. And my father, in his free time, he did some motor racing, I think more than 15 years, saloon cars, cup cars, everything. And for me, as a little boy, it was the greatest from all, just to go with him to the races, join him there, being on the racing circuit. And then when I was 14 years old, we went to Munich on the karting circuit and bought a 1-year-old kart. And I did my first 5 races in this year. And so it started everything, 1983, with a few races of karting. And
So that was when it all kind of, when you obviously you were interested in it, decided to go karting. I guess from there you just when you started racing, you decided it was something that you obviously enjoyed from a young age. And when did you first start karting in a competitive way? I mean, when did you first start thinking this is something I'd like to do and maybe earn some money from?
yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it right from the beginning, but in the
Yeah,
second year, I did the German junior championship in the south of Germany, and I even could win this championship. But I believe it was still so far away from seeing myself as a professional racing driver or seeing myself from earning money,
yeah,
because it was a little bit, how can I say, like I said before, I grew up in a car dealership, car workshop. I learned the profession car mechanic, and the plan was that I once will take over this small
right.
dealership. And racing is for fun, and racing is in the free time. But fortunately, it came a little bit different, and I could then make my hobby to my profession and start to earning money. But still, like I said, when I was 18 years old, I didn't say it yet, but when I was 18 years old, I could do my first year of motor racing, Formula Ford, but still,
Yeah,
everything was quite far away to having really the vision to be a professional racing driver. Slowly, step by step, it came up, and yes, I was happy that then more or less motor racing was my daily life. Huh?
yeah, right. It was so it was just something that you did while you were working, and uh, instead you moved from karts into Formula Ford. And this is something that always comes up in these chats. It's the subject of like money and sponsorship and all that kind of thing. Because as we know, motorsport, you can't do it unless you've got some money behind you, whether it comes from the family or from a sponsor. Was there someone at that time who had obviously seen you in karting, and maybe someone who wanted to invest in you to go into car racing, or was it a case of you had to go and chase people
No,
to get?
only my parents wanted to invest in me.
Was it your
No,
parents?
my parents. We bought a 1-year-old Formula Ford 1600 and run it on
Okay.
our own with a small truck.
Wow.
Had some little sponsorships. Gerhard Berger
Mm,
supported us already a little bit with, making a sponsorship possible for Formula Ford. And at the end of the season, we sold everything again to more or less the same price like we bought it, and a little bit of prize money and everything. So it was possible to finance it. But from
right.
the family side, Formula Ford would have been the limit to finance. Yeah? And then after my Formula 4 season, which was not so successful actually, but at least I could always show that I'm fast enough. I came under contract for Dr. Helmut Marko, then now Red Bull Motorsport director, and I was in his Formula 3 team then, and running Formula 3 championship in Germany.
Wow. And obviously, Helmut was a racer himself until he had the accident, didn't he? Where the stone came through his visor and he lost the sight in his eye, and he went into management. I remember reading that. Saying the car that you had, I think at some point was the Ralt, the RT32, which was like the go-to car almost for Formula 3, wasn't it? It was Ralt and Reynard and a few others, but. What was the RT32 like to drive? Because as I said, I've spoken with Dick Bennett and Stefan Johansson and guys like that, and they've always said it was one of the best little cars they've ever worked on.
I mean, I was still very young at this time, and it was always the most thing I enjoyed was driving, not really dealing with the setup. But I had a very good race engineer who was called Chuck McCarthy, and yeah, we had Michelin tires in Germany, I believe, at the German championship. And Chuck always said, we have to set up this car fully stiff. So a lot of very hard springs, very, very hard roll bars, little camber. And then he said, makes the car most stable. And so this was the way we ran it. And yeah, the car we were the only ones in Germany really with Alfa Romeo engines. So the torque of the engine maybe was not so good like for the VWs, but still the top end power was very good, and yeah, we were competitive, and was a hard fight through the whole season against the competitors. But at the end of the year, in 1889, at the end of the year, we could win the championship. So the Ralt car was a very proper car.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think it was Mika Salo said the same thing. He said he had in British F3, he said he didn't have the best engine, but the car itself was very, very good. You're saying about some of the competitors there. I just got a little list. There was some good. This was in German F3, I believe. There's like Heinz-Harald Frentzen was there. You had like Michael Bartels and Franz Engstler, Frank Bieler, Tom Christiansen, some young man called Schumacher. There was a good crop of drivers around at that time, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was. And there was also a guy called Wolfgang Kaufmann with a Dallara, a guy called Hans-Peter Kaufmann from Switzerland with a Dallara. So really more than a handful of drivers really fighting for the podium, and was strong competition this year in the German Formula 3 Championship.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've got a note. You came in the where you came like 11th overall, some strong points finishes, and you won the title in Austria, the Austrian F3. Yeah. Was that running alongside the German season?
We did a few Austrian races because Austrian team, Austrian driver. And to win this Austrian Formula 3 championship, we also have to do a couple of hill climb races.
Okay.
To score points, because circuit races, we did not a lot of them, and with all the time clashing also with the German championship. So I think I did 2 hill climbs. I won these 2 hill climbs, and this finally then made us Austrian Formula 3 champion.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, they wouldn't ever have hill climbs now, would they? Formula 3. Saying about was it the German Formula 3? We're talking about that kind of time. In my research, I saw that you, in the final race at Hockenheim, you finished 14th.
Yeah.
Frentzen came second in that race, and Schumacher came third, and you won by a point. When you were in 14th, were you thinking, I'm not going to win the title here, or because?
Yes, that's what I got hit the first lap out of the Sachs corner. I got hit from another guy, so I spun. Fortunately, I didn't stall the engine, but I was last then, and it was quite a fully grid. So I moved forward, and then another hit, and then I was 14th. And I believed, okay, championship is gone now. Right. But how can I say, what is the right word in English? Not every race counted to the championship. I think there was one race did not count.
Oh, yeah. So you dropped a score. Yeah.
And with that was then more or less Hockenheim was our worst result through the season, or a bad race, and this we could cancel from the championship, and then still with 1 point ahead I could win. I believe if Schumacher and Frentzen in this race swapped position, one of the two would have been champion. But in
Oh,
this
really?
position,
Wow.
in this position they finished the race. It was just me being 1 point ahead.
Wow, that must have been some relief at the end when you were told you were champion. It must have felt good.
Yeah, there was already, how can I say, there were already the commentator on the circuit said, Schumacher, the new champion in Formula 3. And then my team was Helmut Marko came, they're all stupid. They can't count. Huh? We are champion. and finally, they found out, and then we were champion, and the others just behind me.
No, brilliant. I can't imagine Helmut Marko saying that. Also, that year you tried you moved across to the DTM for a couple of races. How did that come about? What made you want to try racing with a roof?
I mean, I did nearly the full season in the German Saloon Car Championship '89 because it was the same weekend like the Formula 3
Right.
from nearly all the races. And also it was in the team from Dr. Helmut Marko, and he said it's a good learning process. You jump out of the Formula 3 into the DTM and the opposite. So this is good for your driving skill and good for always get, how can I say, set up for new situations. And so I did on the same weekend 2 championships, DTM and Formula 3. Sometimes there was not even time enough to change the overall between the 2 sessions, because out of one car running to the next one and going out of the pit lane. But I think it was a good learning process, from a single seater, very light, late braking, to a saloon car, a heavy car, more than double weight, and braking distances or braking points a lot earlier. So always I had to adjust my driving very, very fast and soon. And I think it was a good learning process for myself.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I would love to see that now in F1, maybe with, I don't know, F2 and the Porsche Carrera Cup or something. See guys jumping from the 2. I'm not sure they'd let that happen.
No, it doesn't happen anymore, really. But yeah, this time Marcus said it's you do both, and then it's good for you.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Very cool. Very good. The following year, you moved. You did, I think it was 6 races in Formula 3000. You did some more races in like DTM, and but you moved also into sports car racing. Excuse me, with the Team Sauber Mercedes. Obviously, I guess that was the start of your relationship with Peter Sauber and
Yeah.
with Mercedes. Did he just did he approach you to go sports cars, or?
Yes, I mean, I think the plan to found a Mercedes-Benz junior team was early 1989, and then they watched the German Formula 3 Championship, and I think the plan was to take three guys out of the German Formula 3 Championship. And they how can I say, they looked after us all season long. And then I believe in August '89 I got a telephone call of Mr. Nerpasch, Mr. Jochen Nerpasch. At this time was the Mercedes-Benz Motorsport boss. If I come for an appointment to Stuttgart for a talk for the future. And then he offered me this plan, Mercedes-Benz junior team next year, testing over the winter in the Group C with Sauber Mercedes, and having a few races next to Jochen Maas as a number 1 pilot during the season 1990. And next to it, of course, you can still do single seaters if there is not too much time clashes. And of course, it was great news, because this was more or less the step for myself into professional racing, into a factory team, big team with very fast cars. At this time, the Group C cars, they were really powerful cars, but also cars with lots of downforce, very high cornering speed, and working in a big team with all this, I don't know, meetings, pre-meetings, after meetings, meetings between the races, and so on. So it changed my motorsport life quite a bit, and yeah, was a good step forward.
Yeah, nice one. Someone did send me a message a couple of days ago, and he said, "How was Peter Sauber as a team boss? Was he obviously very supportive of you, but was he? I don't know. Did he always know what he wanted, and was he very focused on that kind of thing?
Yes,
I think a few people have always said that about him.
it was very fair. There was no pressure. It felt really, really, we really felt immediately as a part of the team. And he supported us, and he said, "You know what? First, I remember first test of the Group C cars. I think it was in November 1989 in Paul Ricard, Le Castellet. And he said, "There's no pressure. You just drive, no mistakes, but also no target for lap times. You just you get used to the car, and you do your lap times, and that's it. Nothing more you have to show." So it was part of a very good support, also from Mr. Sauber, but the whole team to let us drive these fast cars. Huh?
That's perfect. That's just what you need, isn't it, when you're starting out like that? No pressure.
No.
And obviously that year, 1990, you had the win at Spa with Jochen Mass. Nice to excuse me, nice to have that win under your belt. Obviously alongside Jochen and at Spa, which is a superb circuit, as we all know, which is great. 1991, you had your first taste of the Le Mans 24-hour with Fritz Kreutzpointner and Mr. Schumacher.
Yeah.
Was that just on the back of your work in sports cars with Peter Sauber and everyone?
Yeah.
And I guess the opportunity just came up, didn't it?
I think was the plan. I mean, they renewed our contract for 1991 to do the whole Group C championship with two cars. So in one car was Michael and myself for the full season, and also part of the year was Le Mans. In 1991, there were new rules in the Group C. So with normal aspirated engines, 3.5 liter normal aspirated engines, like in Formula One were used. But in Le Mans, there were still the turbo engines allowed. So in Le Mans, we did not run the 1991 Group C car from the championship. We ran still the 1990 C11 with a turbo engine. And yeah, this was part of the season. It was, how can I say, it was a great experience the first time to come in Le Mans. There were so many things to see, so many new things to learn, and of course, then on this great circuit, on this long circuit with all these high speed sections, it was a great experience. But honestly, the week was what I remember. The week was very long. So on Saturday lunchtime, just short time before the start of the race, I was already exhausted because all these long practice days, all this long week in Le Mans. But then still, we had quite a good race. Unfortunately, I think in the morning at 4 or something, we had to change gearbox, so it costed us quite a long time and dropped us back. But still, it was a very nice experience. I will never forget this first time in Le Mans. Huh?
No, I'm sure. I mean, I've been very lucky to speak with some guys who have raced there and guys that have won it. You know, I obviously mentioned Jackie Hicks and spoke to Stefan Johansson, David Brabham, these kind of guys who have won it, and they've all said that your first time at Le Mans, as you say, it's something that you never forget. It's an experience that stays with you, forever. So particularly if you're driving when the sun comes up, they said that's quite a amazing experience. I think it was Karen Chandhok said it recently. He said, as he just came on to like the last section of the lap, there was a load of Indian flags there, so everyone had come to support him. And he said, you don't really see that at any other event. People come from all around just for this event. So it must have been fantastic to drive in. That year, you had your first two races in Formula One with the Leighton House, the March team. Mm-hmm. How did that come about? Because Ivan Capelli had like vacated the seat, hadn't he?
Yeah, I think the thing was, how can I say, the plan for Mercedes with us young guys was really to support us until Formula One. Michael did his first race, I believe, end of August in Spa-Francorchamps with Jordan, and then he moved to Benetton. And he also looked for a drive for me. Right. And I believe Leighton House had financial problems. Mm-hmm. Ivan Capelli stepped back because he had already a signed contract, I believe, with Ferrari for 1992.
Yes.
And with a little bit of sponsorship, I could do these last 2 races in 1991, Suzuka and Adelaide. Yeah, was a nice experience again. Can you imagine when you do your first Formula One races and be in this whole group of drivers? What before you were your idols, for example, and you for a long time you don't believe that you will ever arrive there in Formula One. It was very nice. Unfortunately, not very successful these first 2 races, but still, at least I was there. Could a little bit show my performance, and yeah, was happy that finally it worked.
Yeah,
That I
absolutely. You've obviously drive some amazing cars at Le Mans, but how different is a Formula One car? I mean, what did you first think when you got in and you went in the car? Was it a completely different sensation to
Not,
driving sports cars and everything else, or?
not so much. A little bit, yes, of course, because it was a single seater, very light, little weight, lots of power. But on the other hand, in Group C, it was for us junior drivers already a very good training with fast cars, because the Group C car had more weight than the Formula One. So in the slow sections, maybe it was a little bit slower and little bit slower in changing the directions in slow chicanes. But right from the downforce level, a Group C car was really a very high level. So the cornering speed in the fast corners was similar to Formula One car, I would say. So it was not such a a big change and not such a big, shock to drive such a fast Formula One car. Which was new then at Suzuka at my first race was using qualifying tires. At this time in Formula One until 1991, still Formula One used qualifying tires. They were working exactly for 1 lap. And for that, I had no experience before. But in general, with the normal race tires, the difference to the Group C car, which I also raced 1991 in Suzuka, was not that dramatic.
Okay, so it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't such a surprising jump. I've just seen a question that's popped up from Yasin Kachawi. I hope that's right. He said, "Ask about the crash of Eric Bernard in Suzuka." I can't remember that one. Was there I think there was a crash of Eric Bernard that came along at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I had a crash after 1 lap in
Mm,
Suzuka. I think a starting lap was okay, and after 1 lap out of the chicane before start finish, I was involved in a crash. Car came sideways in front of me. I can't remember who it was, and my car was also damaged, and that was it then. But I
yeah.
didn't remember that it was Eric Berner actually. No.
Yeah, apparently it is. Yeah, I think. Well, from the sound, yeah, I think I do remember now. You said that he obviously came across and
Yeah.
had nowhere to go. So yeah, the following year you had a full year with the now March team. Was that deal signed fairly early in 1992? Was it again due to the sponsorship and things like that you could bring, or
Yeah.
how did that full-time deal come about?
I mean, I was still involved in touch with them over the winter time, and yes, I mean, um, it was then called March again. Same people, same stuff, same material, same cars, because they did not have the money to build a new car for 1992. And then we were discussing with them if there's a chance to join them in 92, and they said yes, but we need sponsorship, otherwise we will not survive this season. So 2 drivers, two package of sponsorship, etc. And then I think finally the agreement was signed end of January, beginning of February. That I did a few laps of testing in Silverstone, and then they packed everything and moved to Kyalami to our first race. But I think the agreement was signed end of January, beginning of February, not earlier.
Okay, so you had a small amount of time to get
No, it
everything ready.
was the whole winter time. It was 5 laps of testing, but on the other hand, you're just happy then finally to get a contract and finally to go to the first race. Huh?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. Was there any expectations going into the season, or was it just a case of, right, we're here, let's go racing again because of the financial aspect of the team? Was there any sort of target for the year, or was it just a case of going racing and see where you could go to?
Yes, exactly like this. There was no expectation at all because, like I said, there were new cars built, running still with the stuff from 1990, obviously with all the things from 1991. But my target was to get experience, to learn all the circuits, to get experience through a whole Formula One weekend, and just try to make good performance out of little capacity, because like I said, there were not a lot of spare parts, there was no testing all year long. And I just had to go to the circuit and try to get the flu quite soon or quite fast. And sometimes it worked well, sometimes not so much. But for example, expectation was very little, because when I arrived at the first race in Kyalami, the opener of 1992, most of the German-speaking journalists said, "Oh, good that you're here, but I'm sorry, you will not be able to qualify this car because it's an old car. You had no testing, etc., etc." And I said, "Yeah, it is like it is, but I'm happy to be here." And then sometimes, if there's no expectations, maybe it gets easier than you believe, because then I was seventh on the grid, and
Yeah,
sometimes I really could show a very good performance, even if it was a car made for 1991. But still, the working people in the team, my race engineer Gustav Brunner, but also the mechanics, they were very, very good, very professional guys. And so the car was always in very good condition. And for me, it was a very good opportunity just to get experience.
yeah, great. And obviously to start seventh in the first race, it sort of maybe proved a few people wrong for what they were saying beforehand, which is always nice. Just got a few notes. I mean, you had a few retirements from the first sort of six races. I think it was four from the first six races, just with mechanical issues and things. But you took eighth in Spain, obviously your highest finish at the time. Must have felt nice to be that far up.
Yeah, but
Come into the race.
Spain, we were also, I think, ninth on the grid in qualifying, and then on the Sunday there was rain, and of course we had rain tires, but we did not have really all the tools to make a fast pit stop. So they said to me, you know what? All the others go with rain tires. You start with slicks. In a couple of laps, there will be no rain anymore, and then we're in a good position. Unfortunately, the rain did not stop, so I had to come in after one lap to change tires, and I still finished eighth. And I mean, lap times were quite okay, but of course there was no chance to do a good result. But this was a little bit the weak point of the team as well. Wheel guns to change tires and all this stuff were not. Just the team had not that much money, and so we were limited a little bit. And sometimes I had maybe made a mistake and didn't finish. Sometimes a technical issue, but some races we finished, and best result was then a little bit later in Montreal.
Yeah, yeah. I actually wrote a little thing about that race just a few days ago. And as you say, you came fourth, which was which was great. Obviously, Ayrton's engine blew up, and
of course.
I can't think who else, but it was one of those races. I mean, what are your memories of that race? Because obviously, it turned out to be the last points that March would get in Formula One. Did you think during the day that, with the way some of the cars were dropping out, some of the drivers were retiring? I think Patrese retired, and there's a number of others. Did you think there was a chance of a really good finish during when the race was happening?
When the race was happening, then yes. Before, it was always difficult to judge. I think I was 11th on the grid. Fortunately, on my last lap, which I could move again on the top 10 in qualifying, there was yellow flag because of a crash in the last chicane before start finish. So we knew we were set up quite well. Car was handling good, and then they just told me, like always, try to have a good start and then just drive consistently. And this I did. And then I was short to a fight with Jean Alesi for third place in the Ferrari. But fortunately, I felt again that the gearbox, how can I say, what is the right word? Maybe the torque rings again start to get a little bit worn out, and the gearbox was, the changing the gears was not so precise anymore. And then I decided to go a bit slower, just try now to score my first points. And this was then fourth place. Of course, I moved forward to fourth place because a few cars stopped.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yama's engine blew up, didn't it? I remember.
Yeah, but in general, we had quite a good performance the whole weekend. Huh?
Yeah, no, it was good, and I think it was very popular because obviously the March team had done quite well in the previous years, and it was. I mean, I can remember being very pleased to see you up there in fourth in March, and that bright blue car up at the top. It was great. It's always good to see. Excuse me. We had a few more retirements later that year, but you left after the race in Portugal. What was the situation there? I've always wondered because it seemed to be going fairly well, but you missed the last couple of races at the end of the season.
Yeah, but I only had a contract for 14 races out of the 16. Because it was already, planned that in autumn '92 the Sauber Formula One car will be ready, and then I start testing this car and developing this car together with the team.
Okay.
So I only had the contract for the first 14 races out of 16, and the last of these races was Estoril. Yeah.
Okay, right. I was just I just wasn't sure if there was anything more to it, but no, that's fine. That's great. I'm glad there was no bad words spoken.
No. This was planned like this. We had a little party on Sunday evening, and then this was the end of my March career.
Oh, nice way to finish, though. We always like a party. So yeah, the following year, you mentioned, we had like Peter Sauber took his team into F1. I always, it's one of my favourite looking Formula One cars. The C12, wasn't it? It was a really lovely looking car. What was it like to drive? Because I've always thought if it drove as nicely as it looked, then it would be lovely to drive.
It drove very nice under the right conditions, I would say. No, it was maybe from the aerodynamic side, it was a little bit sensitive. If there was, how can I say, if outside temperature was too warm, if there was too much sun out, the car was losing a bit downforce in the morning when it was colder and fresh air, and so there was sometimes incredible downforce, incredible grip. And this was the thing we had to manage, that with different weather condition, temperatures, etc., we lost a little bit aerodynamic grip, and this we had to manage them with the setup. But in general, I would say for a new team in Formula One, the first year in Formula One for the Sauber Mercedes team, the car was very competitive, and I think it was a very successful season, what we could do.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, me included, were, and I mean this in a nice way, we were surprised because, it's not often that a new team comes in and is that competitive and like runs so well. I've just seen in the comments, just going back to Canada, it was Gerhard Berger won the race in Canada. So yeah, a good day for Austria. Yeah. The guy who said that, a guy called Darren Timms. Hi, Darren. I know he's a big fan of JJ Leto. Now, I've heard that you two didn't quite get on all the time, but what did you think of him as a driver? Because I've spoken again to a few people, and 2 or 3 of them have said that he was one of the best drivers they'd raced against.
JJ was a very good driver, of course. I mean, he won, I think, all the junior championships in England, Formula Ford, Formula 3. He was very strong in Formula 3000, and he was a very fast driver in Formula One. But like always, with teammates, your teammates, it's your first opponent, and then
Of course.
there was a little fight in the team. But in general, he had good performance in the 1993. He scored the first points for the team Sauber Mercedes at the first race in Kyalami.
Yeah, fifth,
and he had some very good qualifying. So yeah, he was on a high level in 1993.
Yeah, it was very good. And obviously, Benetani had the testing accident and didn't quite work from there, but shame. You had a couple of retirements in South Africa and in Brazil, but then I want to talk about Donington Park, the European Grand Prix. Obviously, it was here in the UK. The Great British weather was was out in force. And you qualified fifth, and you got up into third on the first corner. I've always wondered how difficult is it to race a Formula One car when it's that wet? I mean, I can't imagine how difficult it must be. Was it particularly hard that day?
Yeah, it was lots of rain. I think there was already some rain on the Friday in the practice day, and then Sunday rain right from the morning in the warm up. It was wet, but car was handling good. We were quite competitive already in the warm up, and then yes, I had good expectation for this race because I knew that the car is handling well, that the car is working also in the rain well. Of course, with this amount of rain at some stages during the day, with aquaplaning, with standing water, would have been maybe a little bit dangerous. But then I think during the race, the weather changed very often from wet to dry. The drivers changed a lot very often, the tires. But especially at the start of the race, the rain was quite heavy, yeah. But
Yeah.
still, would have been possible to drive, and would have been possible, I believe, to show quite a good performance with this car at this day.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, as I said, you got a good start. Third going into the first corner at Redgate. We'll come on to the Brazilian chap who came past. We'll come on to him shortly, but because we haven't seen it on TV, but I think a lot of people were wanting you to do well because obviously, Sauber at the front, and real chance in the weather to maybe cause, I guess, an upset. But what happened with Michael Andretti around the end of the circuit there? Because I don't think we ever really saw it on TV. We just saw you both in the gravel. What happened there?
I think he braked too late, or I braked too early. I have no idea. No, I think he
Was it
just,
straight with him?
I think he just touched my rear right wheel, and then we were both in the gravel. Huh?
Yeah,
I think he had standing wheels on the braking, but I didn't see a replay as well because I think there was no proper replay, I believe. But
yeah.
he just touched me turning in the corner, and then we were both in the gravel, and that really was it.
Yeah. Must admit, I was very frustrated. I think a lot
No,
of
it was
people.
because I think in warm up I can't remember, third or fourth. The car was handling well, huh?
Yeah,
And I had a good line on the circuit where I knew that there is, I mean, grip in the rain. It's maybe a little bit too much, but um, um, I knew, sometimes on a racing circuit you are offline, so in the rain line, so it's off next to the dry line where there is no rubber and where it's still in the rain quite good grip. So I was quite optimistic for this race. So unfortunately, it ended already after half a lap. Huh?
yeah, yes. It was a real shame. I think a lot of people were very frustrated when it happened. Just a quick word. I mentioned that Brazilian guy. Obviously, Ayrton. The lap has become known as the lap of the gods, and very famous going from where he started up to the lead. And in those conditions, I mean, I mean, you were right there. He came past you, I think, on the Craner curves, but just how good was that lap from a driver's point of view? Because watching it, I don't think anyone could quite believe what he was doing on that lap. He just seemed to be so much quicker.
Yes, you're right. I mean, I think we all knew Ayrton Senna, his quality, and he was very confident, I believe, especially in the rain on this day, on this circuit. And yeah, he blew us away. He blew away all of us already in this first lap. And I think he was dominating the race. He was, I don't know, nearly lapping everybody from
Yeah,
the others. And yeah, it was just in a different world driving this car. Yeah. I mean, on the other hand, when he was passing me down the hill, I remember quite well. I knew from the warm up that this downhill, the left hander is flat. But I thought, okay, first lap of the race, full tanks, tires maybe not so warm. I lift a little bit, and
yeah,
he was outside like a rocket. Huh? But it
yeah.
was, yeah. How can I say? I think you don't have to feel bad if Ayrton Senna passed you in the wet.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. What I remember is like Murray Walker. God bless him. Just in his highest voice that he can do. It was, I said it. It was. I think that's my memory of it. Him, you know, Murray Walker just like screaming his head off. I don't think he expected Ayrton to do that either. No, so yeah, no, that was great. No, it's good to hear about someone who was in the race. You had like 4 points finishes that year. Were you quite happy at the end of the season? Do you think it was, or were you a bit? You thought you could have done a bit more, maybe? Or
Yeah, I was a bit, how can I say, disappointed from Imola earlier this season because there also was fifth on the grid and had a first good 10 laps in the wet, battling with Berger in the Ferrari, Michael Schumacher in the Benetton, then just changed the right time to slicks. And I was easily fourth, I think, before 6 or 7 laps before the end of the race.
Yeah.
And then there was a technical issue, so we lost this good position. Then I think I was also in the points in Barcelona with a technical issue then after half of the race. So with a little bit more luck, could have been a few points more during the season, but especially then from the second half of the season when we were not so competitive anymore in qualifying, which was, I think, normal because it was a new team. And so the new upgrades, it was not so easy to make for them, like maybe more experienced team in Formula One. But still, we have then the reliability of the car, and believe it was Hungary, Monza, and Estoril, we could score points. And this was then a very, how can I say, a very nice second half of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's all good that the pace in the car was obviously there and the handling, but maybe just the mechanical side didn't want to work sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And Formula One team, experienced teams always again put new developments on the car, and maybe our team at this time was not uh, in the situation yet to bring again developments on the car. But still, this is, I think, a learning process from every team which moves into Formula One now.
Yeah, of course, of course. And you say about the developments, obviously going into 1994, I guess there was a few little things that were done with the car. And you started with a 6th place in Brazil in 94. Did it feel like a better car, or did it just feel like it had developed nicely? Or
Yeah, it developed nicely. I think it was maybe from the um, best performance. It was aerodynamic wise, it was a bit easier to handle this car. There was not so much influence from weather conditions, so it was a bit more consistent. And it started well. Like you said, scored points in Brazil, but also this race, I think, again, 6 or 7 laps before the end of the race, I had starting misfire, so I dropped back from 4th to 6th. Yeah. So otherwise, maybe could start the season with a very nice fourth place, the first race. But in general, I think this car was just a bit more balanced, a bit more stable than the 93 car was. And the 93 car in the best conditions was really, like I said before, with lots of grip and lots of downforce. But this situation, it was sometimes difficult to find. And then the 94 car was maybe the maximum downforce a bit less, but more stable. So it was, from my point of view, was a good development.
Oh, good start. Obviously, that leads on to, there's a couple of things I'm going to, don't want to talk about them for too long. When I handle it quite delicately, of course. But 1994, we all know what happened at Imola. Obviously, you were there. Ruben's accident on the Friday, it was obviously a really shocking one. We all saw what happened, how quickly the car stopped in the fence and everything. Did you ever think, oh, this is dangerous? Or did you think, was there any thought of not carrying on the weekend after that? Because I think all the drivers just saw it as another accident, I guess.
Yeah, no, I never had these thoughts really.
No.
For whatever reason, I don't know. I was shocked, of course, but a little bit, my head was a bit confused after this weekend. But I was a guy at this time, I could not really show emotions. So everything was still in me, working in me. Like I said, my head was confused, but I never had really thoughts about stopping my career, no. And the accident from Rubens on Friday was already shocking, you're right. But he was quite okay afterwards with a little injury.
Yeah.
And the talking in the paddock was, you see now, Formula One is safe, nothing can happen anymore. This was a little bit, what most people commented about this bad accident, bad crash from Rubens. And then a day later, I mean, we saw, of course, different reality. Yeah? So it was shocking, of course, but I never thought stopping my career. No, honestly speaking, not. Huh?
That's good. That's good. Again, I want to touch on it very briefly. Where were you when Roland crashed? Were you out on track, or were you in
Not
the
yet.
pit, or
No,
you were?
not yet. I was sitting in my car ready to go with a monitor in front of me, and I saw it. I saw the
Wow.
accident.
Yeah. I mean,
And the thing is, you are so focused and concentrate, you don't want to believe what you see.
yeah. Sure.
And then my number one mechanic came and changed this channel because he also, we had no confirmation, of course, that he's dead.
Yeah.
But how can I say it? It didn't look good right from the beginning.
No.
And Mr. Sauber came around the car and said, "We stop this session. Go out of the car." Because
Wow.
we all the fear was that unfortunately Roland is not alive anymore. The real confirmation, I believe, we got then in the afternoon at 4:30 or something. Huh?
Wow. That must have been very difficult. Obviously, it was very difficult for everyone to see on TV. And
Yeah.
I mean, I was 13 at the time, and I've always said that was the weekend that my childhood ended. Because Formula One drivers were superheroes, and yeah. But I mean, I spoke with David Brabham, who was obviously his teammate, and he said that he thought about not racing for about 10 minutes. And then he just said,
Mhm.
well, no, that's not what Roland would have wanted. Did you think the same? Do you think we've got a race for Roland?
I think so sad it was, so really sad it was, but Roland died in the thing he liked most or he
Yes.
loved. I mean,
Yeah. It
it
was
is
his dream, wasn't it?
the only thing I can say about it. Huh? It was very sad, of course. We were all shocked, but at least he was there where he always wanted to be. Huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
Which is a great way to look at it. Again, very quickly, the Sunday start line accident, it all felt like it was all going wrong again. And then the restart, we all know what happened with Ayrton. Again, shocking and terribly sad, and not to like belittle what happened to Roland, but it was another level up, wasn't it, when Ayrton was lost because of who he was. I guess you would have driven past shortly
Yeah.
after the accident happened. Obviously, I don't want to go into too much detail or anything. I appreciate you talking about it, but do you remember what you saw or what you thought at the time? Did you just think it was a bad one? Or
Yes, I saw it, but I mean, it is very fast left-hander, yellow flags. Of course, you reduce throttle a bit, but still, I passed with still a high speed. I saw my eye angle, it's a Williams, huh? And then
right,
immediately with red flag, they stopped us before pit entry, I believe. We were on the circuit.
right,
And then the team arrived, and my race engineer said, "Yes, it is Ayrton. We don't know really how it looks like." Huh? And I think this is all these pictures, maybe what you could see in television a little bit, they didn't see really on the monitors anymore. So really, at this time,
sure,
nobody knew what really is going on.
sure,
And then there was a restart and the race and everything. But then when I came back to the pits, I think it was not officially declared again, but everybody knew. Huh? It was,
right.
yeah,
Well, so you didn't find out till afterwards.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, it must have been very difficult. Thank you. I appreciate you talking about that. I think, um, but you actually came fourth, I believe, in that race, which is often overlooked. I've always said that obviously we want to remember Ayrton and Roland, but I think it was Nicola Larini came second and you came fourth. And there's two drives that almost get forgotten about. Um, the actual race itself was quite good for you, wasn't it?
Was quite good. Car was working well again. But I tell you, I was again. I was never on the podium Formula One. It was like it is on this race. Maybe wouldn't like to be anyway.
No,
But
sure,
I
sure.
was for a few laps. I was quite close to Mika in the McLaren. I think Mika finished third then. But I had no energy anymore to fight against him.
Right.
Like how intuition Karl told me, go steady, finish
Yeah.
this race. That's it. I don't know. I had no energy to fight for third place. So I did my consistent lap time, finish fourth, and that's it. And this is what I remember most from this race. But on the other hand, the car was again working well on this weekend. Our Sauber Mercedes.
Yeah. Good. I guess after what had happened over the weekend, it was a case of just finishing the race and just getting out of there, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, don't dwell on this next one too much. The next race was Monaco. Everyone wanted to put on, a race that was, a good memory for Roland and for Ayrton, and no one wanted any large accidents. But unfortunately, you had one on the Thursday. I guess you don't have any memory of that accident in Monaco.
No. The last thing I know is to go to bed the day before, so Wednesday evening.
Wow.
This is the last memory I have. And I also know nothing from the Wednesday in the paddock, because Wednesday afternoon I was for a few hours in the paddock, meetings with the team, talking to people. I know that on Wednesday lunchtime I did some jogging, some running with Heinz-Harald Frenzel, my teammate. And I remember the dinner on Wednesday evening, and I remember going to bed. But this is the last thing I remember in Monaco.
Wow. And
before the day of the accident.
yeah, wow. Do you have any idea what happened? I mean, was anyone able to look at the car, or because
We looked at the car, then they looked at the car, of course. And then when I was able again to visit the company, the factory, our factory, in August 94, they showed me all the data recording, what they have. I just believe that I remember from 1993, this braking area for Monaco, it was very bumpy. So I believe that under braking on the bumps, I lost the car.
Right.
This is what most likely should happen, I believe.
Yeah, sure. With regards to the injuries, obviously, it's been reported that you hit your head on the barrier because the plastic barriers that should have been filled with water weren't. Completely useless. Was it just? I guess it was just a brain injury, and you just had to be put in the coma just to stop the swelling and everything, so you could go back.
Yeah, exactly. I think they put me in coma just to get the swollen brain okay again, to get the pressure down in the head, and they reduced the sleeping pills. How do you call this? They reduced the medicine after 19 days. I think they tried already after 6 days, but then they saw it's too early. After 12 days again, but they find out it's too early, and then after 19 days they did it finally. And I opened my eyes, but I believe I did not show any reaction for the first 2 or 3 days when when my eyes were open.
Wow.
And then there was a doctor there, the number 2, I believe, behind Professor Grimaud, and he had a very good German. His German language, he was speaking German. And in the evening at 9:30, before he went home, he came into the room and was talking to me again, like they all did all day long. And that was the first time I gave an answer.
Wow.
I'm Karl, I'm 25 years old, and I'm from Austria.
Wow. And then they knew you were kind of okay.
And they were happy. I can't remember this. I can't remember. No, because I was the first 4 days when I would wake up again in Nice. I can't remember. I can't remember the transport to Austria, and I can't remember around the first days in the Austrian hospital in Innsbruck as well.
Wow.
But this I just know from what they told me afterwards.
Wow. Because I read also that the doctors thought it might be some permanent damage there, but obviously it's fantastic that wasn't the case. Because I think after Imola, I certainly thought the worst. I thought it might happen. I thought it might happen again, but obviously very, very glad that wasn't the case. But no, thank you again for talking about that. I know you've probably been asked 1,000 times, so thank you.
No worries. It was good.
Was it a few months later you went for a test? I believe, was it a Paul Ricard, and you got back in the car? And again, this is just from what I've read. You said that you realised quite soon that you weren't quite where you were before.
Not in Paul Ricard yet. I mean, I believe it was middle or end of September, and we started this. Heinz-Harald warmed up the car, did a few laps. Then I jumped in. I did, I think, 8 or 9 laps in the dry, and then it started to rain.
Yeah.
Oh, these 8 or 9 laps. Yes, of course, I was slower than Heinz Harald, but everything felt quite okay. And then driving in the rain felt also quite okay. So I got back again this automatism. How do you call this? Quite soon. It
Yeah.
worked well. And then Mr. Sauber said, okay, in 2 weeks' time, we go testing to Barcelona. And Barcelona at this time, maybe still now, there were lots of bumps around the circuit. The car at this time was not good over the bumps in any way. So I had big pain in my neck, brain, and everything. And then we had to stop this test quite soon, I believe, in October '94 in Barcelona. And then I got invited again for a test beginning of December in Barcelona. When with a good performance at this test, there are chances again that I get another contract for 1995. In Barcelona in December, I was performing quite well, not so far away from Heinz Harald Frentzen, but still a lot of pain in my neck and head. So I was a bit afraid. Uh, does this go away or not? But then it went okay quite soon afterwards. And when I started testing with the 95 car again in February, there were no pains anymore. But then really I found out that I'm not really at the same point than before.
Right.
However, this 94 test in Barcelona worked very well. I came home and said to my dad, if something is positive from this whole accident or this whole injury, then I'm better now than before. And he said, why? And I thought, because it was so easy in Barcelona. And then 2 months later, all my ability was gone. I had no concentration anymore.
Wow.
I had no focus anymore. I could not drive the car competitive. So for whatever reason, I don't know.
No, sure.
It took
Sure.
whole injury. I believe this is what the doctor told me after. You had a very bad injury and everything went well so far, but maybe not good enough to really to show proper performance like you have to show in a sport like Formula One. No?
Sure. Wow. And I guess that was the reasoning behind why there was only the 4 races at the start of '95 and at the end of '95. I guess it was because of that.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, did you know at the end of '95 that that was going to be your last couple of races, or was there any thoughts of?
Yeah, that then I did I had the possibility to do a couple of testings in '95 during the season, especially I believe it was October in Mugello. The performance was good, the times were good over 3 days, and then they said, okay, let's go to the last 2 races together again, and then again, Suzuka, I was not fast enough. Easy, I was not good enough. And in Adelaide, I think in the first free practice Friday morning, there was a huge crash again, and then I knew this is the end of my career in Formula One.
Right.
But
Right.
I was not really sad about it. I accepted it, and I said, okay, that's it. Life goes on. I have nice memories from Formula One, and now something else comes up for sure.
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to touch on that. Also, I'm just going to keep an eye on the time. I don't want to keep you too late. I know you have to travel tomorrow. But you moved. Just thank you for talking about your F1 time. Very, very interesting. You moved into the touring car world in the Super Touring Wagen series. With Mr. Pirro, Emanuele Pirro. Was it a different style of driving? I guess it was. As you touched on before, the heavier car, all that kind of thing. Was that the only option you had, or were there other options you could have?
Not a lot of options actually, but I looked around a little bit and I got in contact with Dr. Ulrich, the head of Audi Motorsport at this time, and then he offered me a 2 years contract in saloon car racing, and I was happy to join Audi. Of course, it was completely different driving because how can I say, more than double of the weight than the Formula One and half of the horsepower. So the driving style was a bit different. Everything, the whole impression was completely different, but still I was happy to continue racing and I was happy to join this Audi team there.
Yeah, that's great. And I've just got some notes here. You had a steady season. You took some podiums at Hockenheim and at Wunstorf. Obviously, nice to just be back racing and on a podium, I suppose. Nice to be doing that. second visit to Le Mans that year, alongside Scott Goodyear. Obviously, who'd almost won the Indy 500 back in '92, and like Yannick Dalmas. Nice to be back at Le Mans again.
Yes, nice to be back in Le Mans, but unfortunately, again, this race in this car, I was not performing well.
Yeah.
Maybe the whole, still, how can I say, after this crash in Monaco 1994, I felt the same in a racing car 1997.
Right.
In 1997, I felt at least that I can use my full potential. Before, it was always an up and down. And the change of driving style from Formula One to the 2-liter saloon cars, and then again to this Le Mans car was a bit too much. I had good teammates, of course, with Yannick Dalmas winning Le Mans already before a few times, I believe, got duty, and Porsche factory team, and we finished third, but I was not good enough at this race, honestly.
No. But still, a podium at Le Mans. Lots of people would love to be there, me included. So came third that race. And I always thought that car, I mean, it looked fantastic. It looked like someone had just like squashed a 911. It was amazing car. Again, you switch to the Italian touring cars. One thing I did want to ask about was the Autodromo di Pagusa, the one in Sardinia, around the lake. It's like the only lake in the Sardinia, and they built a racetrack around it. I don't think many people know about this circuit, but what's it like to drive around there? Because it just looks really fast. It just looks like you just go.
Sicilia, not Sardinia. Sicilia.
Sorry, in Sicily.
In the middle of the island, at least when I was there with the Formula 3000, I believe 1990, and then with the Saloon 97. I mean, it's a great atmosphere there in the middle of this island, good spaghetti, good pizza everywhere. But the track at this time, after 2 or 3 laps of driving in the practice or in the race, it looked like a gravel road, because there were only little curbs, and behind the curbs was sand. So everybody cut the curbs, and after a few laps of driving, the circuit was completely dirty and covered in stone and mud. But still, it was always nice to go there.
Yeah, sounds like a nice place, especially the pizza and spaghetti. That sounds good. That's good. 98, 99 moved into the like GT Championship, obviously, where you had a lot of success. Was that just something was that an opportunity that just came up at the time, and it was something that you wanted to try?
Yes, I was always interested in long distance racing, and with Oreca, the French Oreca team, the factory team from Chrysler and Dodge, was a good possibility to join them. And yes, was a very competitive team with a very competitive car in a very nice championship. So FIA GT Championship plus Le Mans, and then from 1999 and the year 2000 also races in America. So I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, was a lot of fun. No?
No, excellent. And obviously, you won the title in '99 with Olivier Beretta, which is great. And you mentioned about moving to the American Mans Series. How different was it racing in the USA to racing in Europe? Because you're out there for a couple of years. And a lot of people that I've spoken to said they really enjoyed their time in that series in America. Was that the same for you?
Yes, it was the same for me. Nice places to go, nice circuits, nice races, like Daytona 24 hours, or also Sebring 12 hours, Atlanta. So yeah, and how can I say, experience a little bit this big country on several places. So I enjoyed it a lot to go there and be there for racing. Huh?
No, great. Also, after a couple of years, you came back to the DTM Championship, which at the time was absolutely fantastic. I mean, you said there was, there was a really good field. Again, I've just written some of the drivers that were in it. There was like Jean Alesi and Ben Schneider, Peter Dunbrecht, Christian Albers. There's like Laurent Aiello, Joe Winkelhock, Michael Bartels, Alan Menu. I mean, lots of really top drivers in there. Did you enjoy that time in the DTM?
Yes, it was nice to be there, but I was not successful again. So, there were some years in my career they were not very good, and this was it. In 2002, the car was very competitive because Laurent Aiello won the championship. He was one of my teammates, but I really could not score good results, and so maybe my eye was a little bit around again to move back into GT and long distance racing. What I did then from 2004 onwards. Oh.
No, sure. Which you did. You moved back. Excuse me. With GMB Racing, obviously performed by Mr. Jabouille. I've got a note here that for a few races you raced alongside Toto Wolff. Obviously, he's gone on to be quite high powered at Mercedes. What was he like as a racer? I've always wanted to ask someone this.
He was good. He was talented, and
Yeah.
he was motivated, of course, also. So yeah, we did in the year 2004. I think we did the first 4 races of the championship together, and
Yeah.
then a year later we did the 12 hours of Sao Paulo together. So Toto was, yeah, a very nice guy, but in the car he was motivated to show good performance, and he did. He was talented in racing cars.
Yeah, good to hear. Because I think a lot of people don't even realize that he raced, and obviously he did. He raced in many different series. Just very quick, a car that I always used to like. It was the Maserati, the MC12. Was that a nice car to drive? Because it looked really good. I liked it.
It was a very nice car to drive, but it was actually planned for, I think, this Super GT championship, what never happened. And they wanted to keep them in the championship, and Maserati wanted to continue. So they got a lot of restrictions: smaller wings, smaller underfloor, less power. Just already at this time, to have this balance of performance that the car is not better than the others. But still, with all these restrictions, it was a very nice car to drive and a very competitive car. And I did 1 year with this car together with Andrea Bertolini. Yes. We had good chances to win the championship, but then at the last race in Bahrain, I believe we didn't finish the race, and so we didn't win the championship. But it was also a good year and a nice experience in all these GT races I did.
Yeah, this is great, and it seems like that's where you had your success. You seem very well suited to the GT racing, the long distance racing. And again, just quick fast forward, 2007 in the Aston Martin, the DBR9, you took second in the championship. Again, I guess another nice car to drive.
Yes, very nice car to drive, very competitive, good handling. Well, 27 to 8 in the Aston Martin, and also I joined ProDrive in Le Mans with this car. Was also a very nice experience. No, I enjoyed these years in GT racing very much. I like to do that.
Yeah, it certainly sort of, it sounds like it was the most one of the more enjoyable times of your career, which was always nice to hear. What made you decide enough's enough with racing? When did you decide to retire?
I mean, in about 2010 or 2011, I thought, okay, it can't last forever. The racing career, we have to look for another job now. No, I had still new people from Mercedes AMG, and they said, and they offered me to come back to them, but not as a racing driver, as an ambassador and instructor in the AMG driving academy and things like that. And next to that, because I still loved it, it's still some racing. But then slowly but surely, I recognized either proper racing or no racing. And then with the job I had to do for AMG, really a full season was not really possible schedule-wise. And so that in 2016, I still did a few races with an old friend of mine, Austria, in his car. And then at the end of 2016, I decided to stop. It was long enough then, and I said, okay, it's a good time now, really, to retire.
Yeah, it's been a good career, and you've escaped escaped in one piece. No, that's great. That's fair enough. And obviously, you're working with Mercedes now as an ambassador, and it's a nice way to earn a living, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Right, just very quickly, again, got one eye on the time. Just a few sort of general motorsport points. Just going back to Formula One, just your thoughts on it with the new cars and the porpoising and everything. It doesn't look comfortable at all. I guess it's not something you would have liked to have experienced too much.
Yes. On the other hand, I mean, I don't know how bad it is. It looks not so comfortable, like you say. Some cars more, some cars less. I just remember the March 1992. It was also, I think, a single damper suspension on the front, with bump rubbers. So, already 5 meters before the next bump, the car started to jump, and it was also not so comfortable, but maybe nothing compared with purposing now. Yeah, it looks like maybe aerodynamic issue, whatever. Some have it more, some have it less.
Yeah.
Drivers sometimes feel quite, how can I say, quite, quite not destroyed, but quite tired after a race. And I don't
Yeah.
know if
Yeah.
what's going on then now with the rules, etc. But on some cars, especially in the beginning of the season, yes, it looked quite weird, the jumping of this car.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, obviously over here we've had Lewis. He's
Mm.
had some problems. I think Daniel Ricciardo's had some pains and stuff. So, yeah, not great. Let's hope they can sort it out. Very quick, your thoughts as a racing driver on what happened in Abu Dhabi last year? Because obviously, us Brits we didn't like it because Lewis Hamilton didn't win. But I didn't like just the way it happened, regardless of who won, whether it was Lewis or Max or you either don't let any cars go or you let all of them go or you
Mhm.
red flag it and start the race again. I don't know. I was just wondering what your thoughts were on what happened with Mr. Massey and all the stuff that went on.
Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to say. When you watch it from outside, you believe they make the decisions in a way they believe it's the right decision because they are involved in this for years. Yeah, was the end of the year maybe on a proper race finish would have been nicer,
Yes,
but yeah, it is like it is, and I think we had enough good racing before, and we have enough good racing this year again.
absolutely, absolutely. Again, very quickly, just a few words on Michael Schumacher. Obviously, he's your countryman. You raced against him a lot. It's just a real shame what's happened to him, and I guess we all just wish him well, don't we?
Yes, we are, of course. I think it's now nearly 10 years ago, this accident he had in skiing. Yeah. I mean, I was his teammate. I was his uh, opponent in Formula 3. I was his teammate then later on. Yeah, very nice guy. Always, of course, very much motivated to be the best. Always prepared very well. Great talent, from my point of view, a great natural talent. What he showed already in kart racing when he was young, and in every category he moved, he was on the pace. He was good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think one of the big men in motorsport, no question. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best of all time. And let's hope, let's hope things can improve even just a little bit for him. Right. Fun questions just before we finish, and I'll let you get on with your evening and packing before you travel. In your career, what's your favorite car that you ever drove?
I believe it's the Sauber Mercedes C11
Yeah.
Group C
That was
car.
that. Yeah. It's a great car.
Because I felt comfortable car right from the beginning, had some success with this car, had nice experience and good memories. So the C11, I think, is more or less the number one.
Yeah. Nice happy memory for that one. Was there one car that or is there one car that you'd love to just get in and have a drive? Is there one car you think, oh, if I could have one go in that? There's probably many.
Yeah, you're right. No, I can't say one now. No, no. I just had a Goodwood Festival Speed, like I said before, the Hans Hermann SLR from 1955 for the Mille Miglia. I drove it just up the hill, which was already a good experience. But maybe drive such a car somewhere on a longer distance. Huh?
Yeah, on a
Yeah.
circuit, go around
Yeah.
Monza or somewhere. Yeah, that'd be great. No, excellent. Was there another? Sorry, is it? Do you have a favorite circuit or a favorite track that you've driven? Is there one that you always enjoy?
Not only one. I always like to go to Interlagos.
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
Cool.
Interlagos, I liked Barcelona a lot. Also Spa, but honestly, Spa only if your car is working. Otherwise, Spa is horrible. But if your car is working, Spa is impressive. Yeah, a
Yeah.
few circuits actually, not
Yeah.
only one.
No, great, great. Um, was there a series that you'd like to have tried? Maybe something like IndyCar or the British touring cars, if you're aware of that. Anything you'd like to try?
No, no, I'm happy with that what I did. I think it was enough for a very long time, and so it's good,
Yeah.
good like it was. Huh?
Yeah, and you actually, yeah, and you raced in so many series, so yeah, fair enough. Okay, this is the big question, the last one, possibly an impossible answer. I mean, you've driven against a lot of amazing drivers. I mean, I've got a list. I'm not going to name them all, but you've against Andy Wallace and Bob Wallach and Jochen Mass, Hans Stuck in the sports cars. You've raced against Keke Rosberg, Johnny Herbert, Nelson Piquet, Alesi, Berger, Patrese, Hakkinen, Frentzen, Zanardi, Hill, Barrichello, Prost, Mansell, even Mario Andretti at Le Mans, Ayrton Senna, Schumacher. I mean, it's so many that you've raced against. Is there one that stands out in your mind as being the best driver that you raced against, or the toughest?
I think for me it's two. There's Ayrton Senna.
Yeah.
For me, it was the most impressive one. Only when you met him in the paddock, he was something. He's what is the right word in English? Is it also aura?
Yeah.
It was incredible when you met him and had little short talks with him. And on the other hand, really Michael Schumacher, because what I found so impressive always, it seemed to be that he always could improve again. So every year when he showed up, then especially at his Ferrari time, he seemed to be better again. And this didn't stop for many years. And so this made him to a 7 times world champion. And I think one of the greatest forever.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone would disagree with Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher. I mean, two amazing guys. And just to go back to Ayrton, I spoke with Alex Caffey a few weeks ago at Brands Hatch, and he said there's only two people who, when they entered the room, their aura entered first. One was Mario Andretti, and the other was Ayrton Senna. So, yeah. No, fantastic. Karl, we're going to let you get on because I know it's 20 past 10 there. But thank you very, very, very much for sparing an hour and 20 minutes of your time. It's been great hearing about your career and some mostly nice memories. So yeah, thank you very much for coming and having a chat. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a big pleasure. Thank you. It was a big pleasure.
And thank you everyone for tuning in. And stay tuned. We have some more chats coming up. But Karl, thank you so much. And enjoy your travels. I believe to Le Mans, isn't it, tomorrow? So
tomorrow to Paris and then Le Mans. Yes.
Lovely. Have a great time. I hope it all goes well. And thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Good night, everyone.